What if there was one vitamin, mineral, or herb more effective than just about anything else for anxiety? You know, if your anxiety symptoms are really bad, or you're also having a fast heart rate, you're having heart palpitations or panic attacks, there are a number of ways that you could potentially treat this. Herbally, with lifestyle, with exercise, with medication. But in this video, I want to share a few other pieces that I think will help you here. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Alex Heyne, board licensed doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and author of the health book Master the Day. So let's jump in. Heart palpitations, anxiety, and panic attacks are symptoms I unfortunately know very, very well from personal experience. You know, there was a time about 7 years ago where I was recording my second audiobook in a home studio, and I just finished recording the audiobook, and it's a lot like this, where I have to really project my voice with a lot of emotion, and it's nonstop talking for hours, and it's quite exhausting. But when I left the recording studio, I walked outside and I started to feel a little bit faint, and I started to feel a lot of heart palpitations happening. And unfortunately, the heart palpitations led to a tingling and numbness in my arm that radiated up into my chest, a little bit of chest pain, and then at that point, the heart palpitations became quite frequent, and I was scared enough that I decided to drive myself to the ER thinking I was having a heart attack. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately, there was no heart attack, and unfortunately though, these symptoms continued for years, as they often do if you don't have a way to treat it or you don't know why it's happening. Most of the time, symptoms that bad start during periods of high stress, where you're either pushing yourself subjectively very hard, or externally in your life, you really have lots of external stressors, sometimes things you can't control. Sometimes people develop this after a period of high stress, and they thought, well, if I took a break after, I should recover, and then they don't, unfortunately. But in general, anxiety can be treated in many, many different ways, and it is an area that I specialize in. And I find that if you are okay with pharmacological options, taking Chinese formulas is extremely effective for this kind of pattern. And if you don't want to put anything in your body because you're too anxious or afraid, which is common, acupuncture alone can be an extremely effective non-pharmacological option. If you don't want medication, you don't want herbs, you're scared of putting things in your body, acupuncture alone on a weekly basis can be something that can really turn the tide for people. But what about if you want to go into more of the vitamins and minerals that are effective for this? What actually works and what herbs have those vitamins and minerals? So first, let's talk a bit about the underlying pattern of anxiety in traditional Chinese medicine. You know, where does it come from? What organs are being affected? What do we have to regulate so that this nightmare can stop? In traditional Chinese medicine, anxiety primarily affects the heart. Now, what that means is that the heart in Chinese medicine is called the emperor. And it's a bit like when there's unrest in the emperor's own home, the whole kingdom's not going to be happy because the emperor ain't happy. As long as the emperor is happy, everyone else will be happy. And everyone else in this case is the rest of your body. The rest of your organs in the system that are being affected when you're having high levels of anxiety, like your digestive system shutting off, your menstrual cycle changing, your headaches, your acid reflux, your insomnia, all these other symptoms that can happen because of the high levels of stress hormones coursing through your body, affecting many different organ systems throughout. But we conceptualize it through primarily the heart and sometimes the kidneys. The reason is that the heart and the kidney are kind of this fire-water axis. They're sort of viewed as like the anchors of the body, certainly the anchors of the nervous system. So for example, issues involving the adrenals, which anxiety often does, especially if you're having panic attacks and palpitations, at that point we say that involves your kidneys. The kidneys are like the anchor, and when the anchor is broken, people get too many ascending symptoms of fight or flight. Now, one of the most important things to do if you have chronic anxiety symptoms like this is to figure out what is the actual organ network or cause of this. So I put together a free quiz. It's the first link below this video. You can also just go to dralexheyne.com/quiz. And that will send you to a quiz that's a 12-page handout we've taken a lot of time to put together to help you understand where symptoms are coming from, what actual physiological pathways or organs are being affected that we have to treat, and then what you can do on a day-to-day basis. So we've actually taken the time to link to dozens of our other videos on this exact topic. So you can browse these all, it's all free, to figure out what is the root cause of your kind of anxiety. So check it out. First link or my website /quiz. Now, one of the famous formulas in Chinese medicine for anxiety is a formula called Guizhi Jia Gui Tang. So this is based on a famous formula called Guizhi Tang, cinnamon twig decoction. This is one of the clinically most effective formulas for anxiety that there is. And between you and me, I find that this formula, more than anything, gets people off Lexapro and anti-anxiety medications like that and keeps them off it. So this formula is primarily high in a few compounds and a few herbs that are very good for regulating the HPA axis, the interface between your brain and your adrenals, and many of those symptoms that relate to high heart rate, palpitations, and anxiety. The first one is a high dose of medical grade cinnamon twig or cinnamon bark. This is the single most effective herb for regulating anxiety, palpitations, and insomnia. Now, there's something else in this formula though that is a secret weapon, and that is dazao. Dazao is called the red jujube date. These kinds of dazao dates, we say, nourish and build the blood. These herbs that are very dark and rich like that are very often high in certain kinds of electrolytes. So dazao is very high in minerals and nutrients like iron, magnesium, and potassium. Potassium being one of the key micronutrients or nutrients people are deficient in when they're having arrhythmias and they're having heart palpitations overall. Dazao is used in a huge range of Chinese medicine formulas, but in general, its signature function is that it is a blood-building herb. Blood-building herbs, in layman's terms, are herbs that are good for potentially anemia, for women's health, gynecological issues, very, very good for often anxiety and insomnia. So we say, herbs that are rich in blood-building qualities are good for calming the heart rhythm, whether it is from mental anxiety and worry, or it is from for example, the electrical signals to the heart being disrupted because of high stress hormones. These two aspects, the psycho-emotional, we'll call it, or psycho-spiritual, if you want to use that term, or the purely physiological, dazao and dates, and these blood-building herbs like baishao, peony, and dangui, are very, very good, and they're very, very good for women's health as well. Chinese medicine has a very specific use. It's not just a general tonic. It has very specialized uses in traditional medicine. And in this case, very, very good for anxiety and high heart rate as well. So this study was done on postpartum mothers in the second largest and polluted city in Iran. Mothers basically were in 2 different groups for 8 weeks, either just breastfeeding and measuring their breast milk, or consuming dates at a dosage of 15 grams per day for those 2 months. What they wanted to study was, did the concentrations of heavy metals differ if they consumed these dates? What researchers found was that it actually did decrease the levels of 2 out of the 3 heavy metals they studied in the women that were consuming 15 grams of dates per day. So unfortunately, pretty much everything women consume, including medications, gets passed on to the children in breastfeeding. It's also why you have to be careful with taking herbs while you're breastfeeding. But in this case, the dazao juice was able to slightly dilute the amount of heavy metals being transmitted to the child, which is sort of neat. All right, guys, so that's what I have for you here today. Don't forget, I work with a limited number of new patients every month in my clinic in Los Angeles, or virtually via telemedicine. If you want to reach out, just go to dralexheyne.com/clinic, or there's information right below this video, clinic phone number, email, and direct booking link if you want to learn more. And also, before you go, I have a great related video on other critical nutrients and minerals that come from herbs that can help you right up here.